I want to talk about, well, the hot topic in the news right now. There's a lot of AI layoffs, lots of turmoil, uncertainty, change in the market, right? Both from the employer point of view as well as the job seeker point of view. Companies like Microsoft, Dell, Meta, Salesforce, even Amazon announced at the Q1 16,000 white-collar jobs being removed. And so that's kind of scary. But obviously that's the headlines. What are you seeing in your day-to-day work?
Yeah, what we're seeing, it's obviously been a lot slower, I think, just with uncertainty around technology, but really it's not necessarily a lack of hiring. I think it's more about a shift in priorities. I think, organizations are still hiring for those positions that really need to push the business forward, that we need to keep the doors open, security, right? A lot of cloud positions, finance, those types of things are still going strong. But yeah, it's just really a matter of, I think now employers are starting to look at what value does this role add. Roles are starting to almost change as far as their responsibilities versus just filling a slot, on the org chart. So it's kind of slowed down. It's become much more intentional. So I think that's what we're seeing. We're starting to also see a shift into kind of project work, contract work, because again, that's another avenue that allows businesses to continue to push projects through while having that flexibility on their hiring. So that's kind of what we're seeing.
Any kind of drop in popularity of roles or decline of roles that you see?
I've seen, there's hesitancy about positions where a lot of the tasks can be automated, potentially by AI, things like customer service reps, data entry, just kind of that baseline. So there's a lot of talk in the industry about what that means, moving forward, and just ensuring that we're still bringing those entry-level people into careers so that pipeline is there. So it's shifting all around. So I think it's important just to stay flexible and stay open as an employer and as a candidate looking for a job.
Well, Ben, you look after managed services at Odyssey. What kind of trends are you seeing with your clients?
So kind of the usual suspects that we see quite a bit is modernization of people's environments. That's always kind of the marquee thing that clients are wanting to do to basically have a leg up against their competition. Yeah. And so they're always modernizing their hardware, they're updating their software, and so that where we come in is to provide consulting services to support that. Mm-hmm. AI, it's AI everywhere. Mm-hmm. That's clearly being adopted. Everyone's still learning it. I think everyone's a little apprehensive of it, but they're starting to lean into it more. They're using it, they're dipping their toe into it with, like she's talking about, with customer service type things. There's some analytics that are going on with it. So, clearly there are going to be a lot of more opportunities within that space. Data center is another big one. The reason why data centers are so important is that they're housing these AI needs, along with 5G networks are needing places to house their networks. Yeah. And then also with cloud computing. That was the big buzzword prior to AI. Mm-hmm. And so that's still a big initiative. So what's happening is we're kind of getting into the more on the front end of like more trade jobs, electrical engineers, construction project managers, things like that on the trade side of it, where it then will shift us into, once that's done, we'll get into infrastructure support, cabling, audiovisual, things of that nature. And then just by the contacts and them knowing us, we'll then get into support of that environment, which is kind of how we're looking at it. And then lastly, I think is kind of the sleeper that people aren't looking at is legacy support. There's a lot of mission critical applications and hardware out there that are running these large enterprise environments, banks, credit card organizations, you name it, and they're all running these legacy platforms. It's not well documented. The workforce is retiring and aging out. And so that's a big risk for these organizations because it's too costly and very difficult for them to move off. They are attempting and they're carving pieces of it, but ultimately it's a big need, I think, out there. And that's something that I've really kind of leaned into because I've got a foot in the newer age stuff, but I've been around for nearly 30 years in the business. So I'm seeing a lot able to make that shift for them.
And I would think, like, before anybody can even get to the AI, if there's no integration with Legacy or an updated system, you can't even get to the new shiny toy, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they don't talk well. A lot of the interoperability and integration of that effort's somewhat difficult. And so, with AI, that's the big thing, is they're trying to move and modernize. And well, that's fine on more modern C, C++, Java type applications. But when it's COBOL or things like that, it's more challenging for those tools to do it.
Oh my God. I had a flashback of learning Fortran. Do you remember that? Talk about legacy, right? Well, Jon, from your perspective, because you have conversations with tech leaders, CIOs, you're interacting with that senior leadership, what's keeping them up at night? What are they talking to you about?
Well, I'm fortunate. I really love what I do. I get to talk to leaders all the time. And sometimes I even get to talk to the CIOs. And I think they're all balancing three pressures at the same time. First, cybersecurity and data risk are still the number one thing that keeps them up at night. And secondly, do they have the talent to drive the transformation fast enough for the business to keep up with? And then third, can the organization drive the transformation fast enough for the business to keep up with and stay competitive?
For sure. When you say it like that, it reminds me of when I was in change management. It's always people, process, and technology, right? Like everything falls under those buckets, and then just trying to manage all that as well. Yeah, thank you. Well, Kristin, let's look at it from the job seeker standpoint.
Yes.
Right? You interact with a lot of them. We still see each other at a lot of networking events for that. What are they telling you, and what are some of their concerns?
So what I'm hearing from candidates right now is really just a lot of frustration and confusion about the job market. So I talk to people that have submitted hundreds of applications, they don't hear anything back, or they don't think the job is real. They get an immediate response that says this job has been filled. So, again, when you're doing that day in and day out, it gets very frustrating when you're not getting anywhere. So I pretty much encourage people to think differently. The market is definitely not what it used to be. I think the days of kind of post my resume and pray something works out are over. Post and pray. Same from the employer side. You can't just post a job and expect that magical person to come apply. So it's really about just doing things that make you stand out and be different. I think if you can do things as a candidate, like write a post on LinkedIn, if you're in change management, write about why you love change management, do targeted reach outs, pick companies that you're really, truly interested in and figure out what's your why. Why are you interested in that? And get real clear on that. I think those types of meaningful, targeted, intentional outreach that's going to actually get you somewhere and get you conversations going, right? And, if you're comfortable doing video, I think that's another good way to kind of put yourself out there, let people see your communication skills. I had a hiring manager that I worked with. She was in marketing, so I'll give her that. But she was laid off. Nothing she did wrong, but what she did is she posted a reference video, and she got her boss, her peer, and then someone that worked for her to all give video references, and she recorded all of them and then shared that on LinkedIn. I think that speaks volumes just about her level of professionalism, and it just answers so many questions up front without just staring at a piece of paper, right? So just little things like that, going that extra step, I think is what's going to help set you apart in this market.
100%. Yeah. You're speaking to my branding heart.
Right. Yeah.
Because I always share with people, whether they're in a role or not, build your brand separate from your company.
Yes.
And just be prepared. And then I love your point about video, because honestly, video is outreach at scale. And then people can sense your energy, your body language, and it speaks so much like volumes compared to just words on a resume.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Ben, now you head up managed services at Odyssey. For those in our audience that don't really know what that is, can you kind of describe it, and then how is that a benefit and an alternate option for people now and for employers?
A lot of businesses aren't in the business of IT. They have their core business that they're typically doing, and then they have IT to help support that effort. And there's so much energy, there's so much money, there's so much staff and management of that environment. They get sucked into that versus just doing their normal, what made them important in the first place, their business. And so what managed services to me is basically is being able to allow those clients to get back to their normal business and supporting and being able to do that production support, applications, database, whatever it may be. We're taking that pressure off of them so they can run their day in, day out business. So we've seen a lot of clients that there are IT companies that do great IT infrastructure support, and that's great, but there's a lot that don't. And so when that's the case, managed services is more, to me, a collection of multiple people supporting multiple different environments, having strong statements of work in place to say, all right, here are our metrics, here are what we're delivering. Does it hit the standards that they're looking for? And then supporting that with documentation and a team approach to support it.
So when it's deployed, how does that look like? You gather teams and then deploy them at clients, or walk us through a little bit of that?
Well, every one of them is a little bit different.
Kind of case by case.
It is case by case, and normally, fortunately for being in the business a long time, it's very difficult to sell managed services up front. To go in and say, I do this. It really starts with a consultant or an advisor of here's what we can do, and they're there and there's trust built. And then over time, they're like, what else can you provide? And then just over time, it's just a collection of things, and it's rapport and it's trust and growth. And so we've been very fortunate for being in the business to support multiple clients for multiple years, and we've helped identify gaps. It's amazing how many gaps are in infrastructure and applications areas. Teams don't talk to each other, applications doesn't talk to systems, database doesn't talk to this and that. And so we try to get in there and help be a glue of all that and keep collaboration, communication open for them.
And your consultants are literally like rolling up their sleeves and like in the operations.
We'll get to maybe a team delivery here in a little bit, but it's not just one person. You're getting a bench of other people behind them that are known resources. I think what is so important for a managed services company is the people that are doing the work. It's not Odyssey corporate doing it, it's the consultants, it's our employees that have been in the business with us hand in hand for 10 or 15 years now. I know them. I know what they can do. I trust what they are going to say. They're going to do it, and they deliver. And so that's very easy to sell to your clients. They hear it in my voice. And so I feel great every time I talk to a client because I know what I'm delivering. When it's an individual, it's more difficult if you don't know a person's background or skill set. When it's a service, I know everything that they can do.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the reasons I really gravitated to your team, right? You guys, and Jon, like you guys have built relationships, like long-term relationships over 5, 10, 15, 20 years with your clients, right? So as you kind of look across these decades, right, from the time that you started the firm to now, obviously the technology has changed, but what hasn't changed for you, Jon?
Oh, relationships haven't changed. No matter how much technology evolves, hiring is still a people's decision. Clients want partners that really understand their environment, and candidates want someone that represents them really well, not just a transaction.
Yeah, totally understand that. Again, like at the end of the day, everything's changing, but then that relationship and that trust that you've built with your clients and your consultants remains the same and built on trust.